Hey everybody, hey, Carlotta Berry here hopping on y'all. I want to say this to you that if you were expecting a particular turnout in something that you signed up for, if you showed up and you did your part and it just all crumbled and just didn't work out, I want you to just know that you did your part and it's not a fail. You don't take an L, an L for you lost. You did not, because you showed up and you did your part. And that at the end of the day, we're called to be obedient. And especially if you feel like, the Holy Spirit is calling you to a thing, but it just doesn't materialize. It doesn't turn out the way you expected it to. Sometimes it's not about the outcome. It's about your obedience. It's about your yes. And y'all, today I just got back. I just got back from a elementary school. I signed up to be a mentor. The program is called Lead to Read. And when I tell you all, it has been like nudging me. And what I mean by that, I'm struggling to get out my thoughts, but what I mean by that, y'all, is I've seen it advertised, during the regular news forecast. They would talk about Lead to Read and how they were looking for volunteers. And then I went to a clothing store, and on the countertop, there was literature about the program. And I was like, okay, Lord, okay, that is my sign that I need to sign up and become a volunteer. And as it turns out, that's what I did, fill out the paperwork. They did the background check. And I was excited to show up on today. Today was my first day. As I sat in this room with all the other mentors, and they were sitting with their books waiting for their child or their mentee to show up, I'm sitting there with them. The door opens, all these kids rush in, and I'm sitting there with anticipation. My child that I'm assigned to, she doesn't show up. So they brought me in another child, and she was in the second grade, real cute little girl. And she was very antsy, y'all. She really struggled with sitting still. And so after I introduced myself, she extended her hand and we shook hands. I thought that was really cute. And it didn't take long for me to see that she really struggles with reading. And I was trying to get her to go over just basic, 2-letter words, and she wasn't able to comprehend them. And then I even saw you know, this embarrassment in her eyes. And so I decided to put the reading materials down, and I just kind of talked to her about herself, and I asked her what was her favorite foods and her favorite activities and what did she really enjoy doing. And she kept moving around as she was talking to me. And then I called out her name and I said, look at me. And I said, just look at me. And she looked up at me, and she looks at me. And I said, you see how I'm sitting? I said, can you sit that way? And so because I was sitting still, she scooped back in her seat and she got still. And then she looks at me and she's like, points at my glasses. And I said, you like my glasses? And she go, yeah. And then, yeah, I noticed on her blouse, there was a picture, a graphic design of a young little girl with 2 ponytails, and she had on glasses. And so that's where we connected. And so we began to talk, and I told her I liked her blouse and I liked the glasses on the little girl's face on her t-shirt. And we laughed a little bit, and then I got her back to the words on the paper there and on the book, because we brought in some papers and books, and she was able to successfully sound off a couple of vowels. And that was pretty much it when it came to my part as a mentor and trying to get her to strengthen her reading skills. But y'all, I could say that was a fail. I could say that, I didn't get to meet the little girl that I was supposed to meet with. I didn't get to meet with her, and also that I wasn't able to sit back and read to the little girl, and the little girl wasn't able to really read back to me. But it was a win. And you know why it was a win? It was a win because I showed up. I felt the nudge, the tap on the shoulder, I'm going to say, from the Holy Spirit, because I was supposed to do this last year and I didn't. And then the program was announced again, this year, and it was on the news. And I believe they do it every year, but it just was like I felt convicted. Like it was like the Holy Spirit was telling me that I want you to volunteer. And so I did. And so I showed up and on time. And let me just say, I had to run around the building because the door I tried to get into, that door was locked. And then the sign said only for the staff. So I had to run all the way around on the other side of the building. Thank God I had on my little comfy tennis shoes. And I got there on time. And I was able to make a young person smile. And I was able to engage her. And we just had a good time. We did a couple of fist bumps and we shook hands. And I told her that, if her mentor didn't show up on next week, then I look forward to seeing her again. And so, y'all, sometimes it's not about the outcome. Sometimes it's about your yes and being obedient. And when you feel that nudge from the Holy Spirit, and sometimes you may not know it's the Holy Spirit. It may just be something that you know that you need to do. And it's been hanging on you and it keeps showing up and it keeps showing up in your life. That might be the Holy Spirit very well. That's saying that that's something that you need to do. And it's not about you and it's not about me. It's about saying yes and showing up. And that's what I did. And I had a good time. I had a good time making her smile. And I even cracked a joke. And I said, not cracked a joke, but I looked in her eyes and I said, "You sleepy?" I said, "You sleepy?" And she kind of looked and she blushed. And so happens, one of the books that I had in my hand, it was talking about a bird that was sleepy. And so then I talked about that word, that was in the book, sleepy. And then I said, "You're sleepy." And so we both laughed about that and we had a good time. And it blessed me. It blessed me. And I believe she was blessed by it as well. And so I just hopped on to say to you that if you feel a pull to do something, go ahead and do it, okay? Go ahead and show up and just know that it's not about you. A lot of the times it's not about the outcome. It's about you following through and it's about you saying yes and being obedient to what God has called you to do. All righty? All righty. Duty calls. Until next time, I'll see you later. Always know God is real. He loves you. He's rooting on each and every last one of us to win. All right, I'll see y'all later. Bye, guys. Have peace. Bye-bye.